when individuals would come to me for a consultation, we would do tape measures and we would do body fat comps, and I would, I've got software that we could crunch all these algorithms, and I could give you the most black and white, most emotionless look at your food. So this is the calories that you need to sustain. This is what you need to consume to be able to reach your goals. Here are your macro targets, and go.
Hello and welcome to Sugar Free TV for another episode. And we are so excited today to have a fantastic guest with us, Jason Leenaerts. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Nabila. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you here today and to continue our conversations in the theme of talking about what's happening with the world today with regards to nutrition, diet, fitness, sugar, all of those things that are getting us the results that we've seen in the world are catastrophic right now. And I think I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say. So Jason, thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you. So tell us where you are in the world and tell us what you do, Jason, because I know that you have particularly quite a bit to say on this subject.
Sure. So I've yet to find a nice, succinct way to say this, but I'll try to keep it as short and sweet, pun intended, as possible. So my name again, Jason Leenaerts. I am the owner of a brick and mortar personal training facility in Northeast Ohio in the U.S. called Revolution Fitness and Therapy. We just celebrated 14 years of business, so that's pretty cool to say, especially in the post, COVID world, if you will. And I also do online nutrition coaching under Dr. Spencer Nadolski in a platform called Big Rocks Nutrition. So I've been involved in that for about a year and a half, which opens me up to a much broader base of people than what I can access just in my brick and mortar facility. So yeah, professionally, that's what keeps me busy. Personally, I am married to a woman who is far more beautiful than I deserve. Her name is Marissa. I have two beautiful boys, Jackson, who is 15, Sebastian, who is 5. And on the personal front, that keeps me also quite busy. As far as our conversation here today goes, a couple of other things that may be sort of footnotes to our conversation. I do have something of a dog in the fight with regard to conversations about sugar. My mother was late diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so I've had to help her navigate that world and understanding how to look at her meals and meal choices. Again, she was diagnosed very late in life, so it's been kind of surprising for all of us to see her go through this experience. And I am a recovering drug addict, so that is something I've been clean for about 17 years. I know some people kind of stand on a fence that things like sugar have addictive properties. So I have a little bit of background in addiction. So, maybe some touch points as we go through this conversation, but hopefully can just be as helpful as possible to your audience. So
fantastic. This is great. So I know you're kindred spirits with Luke because he's also got a background in sports.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, and also my mother being type 1 diabetic for 50 years. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is very, very hard, particularly as a child growing up around it and seeing somebody injecting every day and suffering with hypos and, the effects of things. And also, as you said, touching on the sugar. And actually, Nabila, the other day we were introduced, we had a really great podcast and somebody said, have you seen the Eric Clapton video on YouTube about addiction and where it all started? And his journey was actually sugar. It started with sugar sandwiches back when he was a child in the 70s. So yeah, very much something that is close to, in terms of the availability of, say, sugar as a product to children. And that is something that is the thing that is part of the thing that I sort of campaign very strongly for. The collective children. Yeah.
So what do you say, Jason, about what's going on with sugar these days, and obviously in the work that you do, in your amazing work in your bricks and mortar business, and also in your virtual coaching support that you offer? Kind of what are you seeing in people's nutrition and their relationship with sugar?
Sure, that's a great question, and I think we could probably make an episode just off that question alone. So the one thing that I think we can all agree on is that sugar is something that is quite easy to overconsume. When you look at the ways that it is involved in the things that we eat, not just sugary treats like cookies and cakes and things like that, but also even in condiments, when you look at things like ketchup, where it's available there. And like a lot of things, there's not a lot that the health and wellness community openly agrees on. We can pretty much all agree that trans fats are not good for people. And we can agree that anything done in overabundance can be problematic. And so any chronic overconsumption of foods is going to lead to its own issues. And then you have to sort of take some of these sample subsets together. There are the people that naturally tend to gravitate towards sugary things. And then you also have to look at the other subset of people that naturally gravitate towards things that aren't sweet. That's just not what appeals to them, but they might go for more savory things that could also be easy to overeat, such as chips and crackers and things like that. So, trying to understand really where the individual is. The other component of it being, what is the conversation that we as wellness professionals, for lack of a better term, are having? Is it a warm, is it a caring conversation? Or is it one where we start to really demonize what's happening out there? And I think when you get into the part about things being good versus bad, good versus evil, healthy versus unhealthy, is where you start to kind of draw a very fine line in the sand. And what it potentially does is it gives people this feeling like, if I'm not good by whatever standard, then I must be bad. Mm-hmm. And, it was interesting because I knew I was going to be having this conversation with y'all this week. And my mom, who I mentioned before, is also a business owner, but she owns a flower shop. And she was very busy this past weekend because it was Mother's Day. So I was helping out around her shop, and she had some snacks available that were there. So one of the things that was there was a bag of popcorn. And this particular bag of popcorn, the brand is called Lesser Evil. And I understood why it was called that, because it was a vegan popcorn. It was a artificially buttered flavored coconut oil that was used to make the popcorn. So their branding, their message is lesser evil. Okay, so we're not advocating the use of animal products. And again, we have to ask ourselves, like as coaches and as people who are trying to basically market to the masses because we want people to live the healthiest lives possible, is this the most caring picture that we can paint? Do we really want to be talking about good versus bad? Or is there a way to have a more productive conversation so that people don't feel like they're either completely on the wagon or off the wagon? An analogy that can be either productive or counterproductive depending on the person. So I'll step back for a moment and let the conversation breathe from there. So.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you are singing from the, look at Luke's big smile on his face. We're absolutely singing from the same hymn sheet. I think one of the things I've seen is so many of my family members going through this kind of yo-yo dieting, and psychologically the damage that has on somebody who is doing that on a lifelong basis, just constant this feeling of guilt, purging, and just all of this kind of stuff going on all the time. It's psychologically so damaging. The relationship with food is damaging for them that they're there in. So it's a really toxic cycle. But we just see that we kind of want to create an environment where we can have peace with food and create that environment, that healthy, lovely environment where we can enjoy being together as a family without this battle ensuing over the table about what's good and bad. If you have a party, or all the party food is I was naughty today, I was bad today. This is toxic. We very much feel it. What do you think about that, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that is really great to have a conversation with you, Jason, because obviously you're bringing the two elements of it as well together, because you're bringing the awareness of the nutritional side with also the health and the fitness side. Because without the two things being married together, it's not really it becomes something that isn't. People need to understand that there's more elements to it, don't they? Not just the single, it's not just dieting. You've got to take an eye on what you're doing as well, health wise, and even the moving around, getting people moving as well as food.
It's just over the last, especially few years with the pandemic as well. I mean, I don't know about the States, but I can imagine it would be very similar to the UK. We were all locked in and sedentary, and what we saw is an uptake of people baking. They were baking and they were comfort eating because they were stressed out. And I just think, I understand. We were all in the same stressful situation. It didn't impact me in the same way. I did not go and buy the sugary food because I was already sugar-free by that point. But yeah, I don't have any judgment on people that were feeling so despaired and so in need of comfort during that time. And when you kind of make friends with them through that and speak to them in that kind, compassionate way, it helps them, and sometimes it releases. I mean, have you seen that in the work that you've been doing, Jason? It sounds like you're on the same page around that.
Yeah, but you brought up really what I think is just a shining example with the pandemic, and certainly with lockdowns is, historically, and I guess I can say this with the benefit of hindsight, we prior to COVID, we as coaches would tell clients, well, maybe you need to eat out less, maybe you need to dine at home more because you'll have more control over what you're cooking. You'll be, more in your environment where maybe it is a little bit more conducive for things like fat loss and being able to control, if you're someone who tracks your macros, you'll have more say in what's happening with those because, we know that restaurants are there to get you to come back, not necessarily to save your waistline. So, but what we found is that when you trap someone at home and say that, sorry, you can't really go out in the world the way that you've known it, and you give them this new unknown that none of us have ever had to face before, then what you find is maybe it wasn't so much about being at home, it was about having the best coping skills that you could possibly have for yourself. So all of us saw a different face even of ourselves. And I mean, those several weeks, I'll say, specifically and anecdotally, my world changed in the middle of March 2020. You know what I mean? It was like everything changed. And on a professional level, it was that way for 6 to 8 weeks where it was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? And so then you have to kind of dial it back a little bit and go, okay, so how am I coping with the things in my life that I actually have control over? What's happening with the dynamics of my marriage? What's happening with the dynamics of parenting? How am I taking care of my health? What am I putting into my body? And so again, depending on the way that you comfort yourself, this could either be a really good time for you to focus on the variables that you can control, or this is your holy shit moment where you look back and go, oh my God, all I'm doing is self-soothing through food. And that presents its own problems. So then when we came out of lockdowns for us, no surprise, a lot of my clients gained weight because stress eating. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. Yeah. I mean, I remember going to the supermarket just before we locked down for the first time. And there were people like pushing trolleys with like 10 bottles of gin. They were planning like lockdown party time. They were like all the food and all the booze. And they were like, we're going to be locked in. We're going to have a good time.
Of course. And all the toilet paper.
All the toilet paper. People would be walking past with the supermarket laughing at what they could, what they were putting in their trolleys. Because it was just like, this is just like, this is the end of the world, so we might as well make a good, but yeah, they were stressed out and worried, didn't know what was going to happen. So I just don't feel any judgment towards people, but the statistics are pretty sobering, actually, in the UK. What happened with children's weight, with adult obesity rates going up, and obviously the health risk associated with obesity and COVID, the two together was like the imperfect storm, So how did you handle, when you touch base with your clients afterwards, how did you kind of reconnect and get back to where you were before?
The first thing was just to get them moving. We were in a good position that because I have already an online community for my current, for my active clients, we were very transparent about, hey, obviously we've got to shut down in terms of being able to take you here. We're going to flip everything over into virtual training. So we're going to offer workouts that you can do that day with minimal equipment, because that was the way that we could essentially stop the bleeding. Because for some people, the way they looked at what was happening was, if I can't come to the gym, I'm not going to keep paying to come to the gym. And other people were like, well, I can't come to the gym, but I want to keep paying because I want to have a gym to come back to. So we had both ends of that spectrum. So we wanted to try to give as much value as we could to the clients that we had. And once we were able to basically reopen and bring clients back in, It was about, first thing was just, let's get you moving. Let's have our community back the way that, we knew that it was prior to the middle of March. And then it's about just trying to offer the best support that we can for what's happened with the diet, because we know that invariably something has changed. And because we still weren't out of the woods, we were still all dealing with the virus. We were still waiting on a vaccine. Whether people chose to have the vaccine or not was another matter altogether. But we were waiting. We were waiting for a solution. So in the meantime, it's okay. We have no control over the virus. We have no control over the vaccine. We have control over what we put in our mouths. We have control over the way we move our bodies. And for those who need it, thank God we have things like virtual therapy who need mental health support, because again, it was a, what's the term I'm looking for? That was, everybody was using this term in 2020, not unparalleled. But like
unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Had a complete brain fart. So unprecedented thing that we were all experiencing together, and we didn't know how to react to it. So it sounds really simple, but it's, number one, let's get you moving because we know that you can still move. And number two, let's just try to come back to what are some good coping skills that we can do with your diet to support the goals that you had prior to the world essentially just erupting. So
yeah, absolutely. And I can see Luke keen to ask questions.
Yeah, and I mean, well, one of the things I was going to add to that, actually, that the thing that I found actually during lockdown was that it became such an insular thing that actually even going to the supermarket was a bit of a day out, just to get the things, just to try and break that deadlock of things. And I think there's two elements to that in terms of the mental stress of it, is that it wasn't just the fact that you couldn't go out, because if you could go out and were allowed to, you probably didn't want to, but it was the fact that you were being told you couldn't do it. So that's why it was doubly oppressive in many respects. And so, yeah, no, I get why people were eating more and not moving around very much. They probably felt really bad. And, in terms of getting people to move around it, presumably with people, once they've been sedentary for a while, it's a bit of a slow start.
Yeah, when, not just a slow start, but by that point, we already had clients who had been infected with the virus. So they'd gone through that period of a couple of weeks where they feel however they feel, because obviously at this point, we've either all had it or we know someone who's had it, or we've experienced it. So, it was trying to learn, okay, what is the energy level of this person coming out of having had the virus? How much do we have to dial back the intensity of their training? And so the nice thing is that basically, no matter how much the virus impacted you, everybody can still walk. Okay, well, cool. If the best thing that you can do is walk, let's go for a walk. If you can't jog yet, we'll wait till you can jog, assuming that you even like jogging. But just learning how to dial back the intensity of the training so that it was like, the best thing you can do is move. And then when you're ready, then we can always scale up. The good thing about owning a gym is there's always a heavier weight. So we can get back to it when we need to. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found actually as somebody that was involved quite a lot in cycling is that actually as well, there's another bit of a gotcha in terms of the exercising. And that is that if you're busy as a sports person, you're exercising a lot and you're eating the calories that you need to fuel that sport, when you suddenly stop, you know what it's like, right? When you suddenly stop, you still consume those same calories. That's a massive gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and, you bring up an amazing point, which is, when we look at things like, certainly in America, when you look at, say, I was about to say professional, but this is not going to be correct because I'm talking to two people in the UK. So when you look at American football players and the stature and size that they have to adapt and keep on to be able to do that, that position quite well, when they decide they finally want to retire, it's like, hey, you've just removed all of this activity from your life. You can't continue to eat 4,000 calories a day and expect that weight's going to stay stable because the expenditure has changed so much. So yeah, it's eye-opening for sure.
Sure, yeah. And I find another last point I was going to make on that I find a challenge as well, and that is that I, a few years ago, got into the sort of 5-2 where the fasting, where you do, 500 calorie fasting a couple of days a week. And the funny thing is about it is you suddenly have lots of time. because all of that time that you could be using to prepare a meal or eat a meal, I was like, well, what do I do now? I've got all this spare time and I've got to try and fill it with something. That's a challenge. I know people struggle.
Yes. So, yeah. So go ahead. Sorry, you're about to say.
No. And I think it's one of those things too, for the individuals who it's safe and beneficial to do different, varying types of intermittent fasting. And God knows there's lots of different varieties of doing it. You have to look at your day a whole lot differently. As you mentioned, the fact that you're no longer prepping meals, now you have all this extra time. For other people, it's like, okay, I know that I'm going to have these hunger cues. What am I going to do to keep myself busy so that I'm not thinking about food? And so again, just sort of watching that process for each of those individuals who undertake it is always just very fascinating to see.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you about what your approach is around sweet eating, food, and those kind of addictive behaviors around eating. Let's pretend, let's role play now. If one of us was your client, maybe I can volunteer to say, okay, so and I'm coming to you for some support and advice, and maybe I want to hit the gym and start. So how would you start that process, and kind of what is your advice that you give around sugar reduction or approach to eating sweet foods?
Sure. So the first thing that I like to do, and again, oddly enough, a lot of this was informed by what happened with COVID. So to kind of give you a little bit of background, prior to COVID starting or, affecting the world the way that it did, when individuals would come to me for a consultation, we would do tape measures and we would do body fat comps. And I would, I've got software that we could crunch all these algorithms, and I could give you the most black and white, most emotionless look at your food. So this is the calories that you need to sustain. This is what you need to consume to be able to reach your goals. Here are your macro targets, and go. And when COVID hit, we no longer wanted to be in close proximity with each other to do things like body measurements. So one of the things that was helpful for me was around the same time that things were happening with COVID, I was picking up another nutrition certification. So coincidentally, the certification that I was working on at that time is UK based and it's Mac Nutrition. So I was working on that certification at the time. And one of the tools that we were using in that program was essentially a 24-hour recall. So I've started utilizing more of that because it helps me understand a little bit more what does the current diet look like for an individual. And it's assuming that, with anyone, that what they'll tell me is as factual as it can be, because some people will come in and they will tell you every gory detail about their diet. And some people are more withholding because they don't quite trust you yet. So you have to kind of understand that, there's both sides of that coin. So Nabila, in your case, it would be kind of a similar thing. I would ask for 24-hour, food intake and just, hey, tell me everything that you eat and drink in the span of a normal 24 hours. And then once I get that breakdown and can kind of see the snapshot of that, then I might ask as well, okay, so that's a regular day. What does an irregular day look like? What's a day that's not quite the norm look like? And so for a lot of people, not all, but for a lot of people, the diet's fairly consistent, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The variability happens somewhere between Friday and Sunday, because that's when we want to be social. That's the end of the work week. That's when we're so tired and we're so stressed and we're so excited that the weekend is here, that it's like, you know what, I just want to let my hair down. Well, I don't have hair to let down, but I'm going to let our hair down and we want to have fun. We want to have the drink. We want to go out to eat. We want to have something of our social life. So then the question is, how do you eat on those days? And then we see a little bit clearer picture. Okay, so this is I don't like these words, but I'm going to use them because it's what's in.
Cheat day.
This is a good day. This is a bad day. Okay, so let's look at it without judgment. And so in your case, if you were coming to me, and this was before you had adopted more of a sugar-free style of eating, you may have had a diet that was higher in sugar for you. And I'll give you an interesting example here in just a moment, but we would look at that. And so I would ask you, so is this an area that you want to improve? Or, Nabila, what do you think you need to improve on in your diet right now? And I would let you tell me, well, you know what, I think I really have an issue with sweets. Okay, well, tell me about that. Okay, well, this is what happens. This is when I feel like I gravitate more to sweets. And this is where I feel like I need sweets the most, or this is when I feel like I crave sweets the most. And then trying to understand, okay, in the grand scheme of things, is this really a problem? And so let me give you a very pointed example. So I've been coaching for 15 years total, and I've only had one instance. And I'm going to give you what I consider a very extreme example. A few years ago, a client came to me. Now, this is a client that trained with me here at the studio. She came in, she knew some other people that worked with me, and she came in and she said, hey, I want to get started. I need a kickstart. I want to lose some weight. She and I had in common, she is an addict in recovery. So she was both a drug addict and addicted to alcohol. And so she had cut both of them out of her diet. And somewhere in the process of being clean and being sober, she was also increasing her sugar intake. So she said to me in her 24-hour recall, I eat a lot of sweets. Now, I've done this a long time. And I said, what does that mean? Because I'm thinking you have a couple of cookies every day. Or like once a week, you eat a whole sleeve of Oreos, whatever it is. I was ready for it. When she gave me the recall was over 60% sweets. It's the most I've ever seen of anybody. And I say that again, zero judgment. I don't care if your diet is 90% sweets. But when we detailed it, it was cookies and it was donuts and it was things that they're not sugar in isolation. They are sweet fat combos that are very easy to overeat. Cool. So then I asked her something that would not necessarily be something I would ask of most people. But because we both have this addiction background, I asked her something that would be a little bit left of center. And I said, would you be willing to give up sweets for a predetermined amount of time? Without hesitation, she said yes. I said, okay, here's what I would like you to try. I would like you to try to give up sweets for 30 days. Caveats. If you don't make it 30 days, if you get through 2 weeks and you're doing great and your body feels great and everything's great, and then you have your oh shit moment, which you will have, if you have the cookie or whatever, I don't want you to berate yourself about it. I want you to get right back to the plan. So if on day 15 in this 30-day plan, you have a cookie, you are not a bad or good person because you had the cookie. It's just a cookie. And then I want you to get right back to the plan and we soldier forward. And then at the end of 30 days, let's reassess. Do you feel like you have a little bit more control over these types of foods in your diet to start to incorporate them in some degree back in? So again, now we're going to look at dietary adherence. And this is really what makes or breaks it for any client. Same for Luke, same for Nabila, same for Jason. What's going to help you adhere to your diet? So I think that we can probably all agree on this. There are some people that if you let them have one thing that they're really going to enjoy, a really nice piece of chocolate, a really nice homemade cookie, that's all they need. Give me my little piece of joy each day or every other day that I can look forward to. And then I won't feel so deprived. And I will do anything that your crazy bald ass asked me to do for my diet because you've given me that thing that gives me happiness. Cool. That's one type of person. There's another type of person that says, you know what, right now, based on all of my life stressors and all the things that are going on in my life, right now, I need to take a break. I need a little bit of abstinence. And so let's come to an agreement about what's a reasonable amount of time to just step away. And again, no judgment, because the moment we feel judged is when we start to kind of step away and go, if you're going to judge me, then I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to have all the sweets, all the alcohol, all the pasta. I'm going to have all the things.
Yeah.
Our inner child wants to rebel.
Yeah.
So trying to understand, okay, there's these types of people, and then there's everyone in between. So, Nabila, in your case, what I can assume, and I don't know a lot about you beyond us getting on this call, is that you had a point in your life where you felt sugar was winning and you weren't. So you said, okay, based on all of the things going on in my life, I'm going to make this change, and I'm just going to see. I'm going to see what happens. And so you start to adopt this style of living, this style of eating, and you're like, I feel pretty good. At some point, you reach the point where you're like, I don't feel that same calling. I don't feel that same urge, but I'm a normal human being who still wants to have something sweet. What do I do? Yeah. Well, then I start looking for sugar alternatives. And there's nothing wrong with the sugar alternative. Mentioning my mom being type 1 diabetic and us just finding this out just a handful of years ago, my mom and I are both from little towns in Tennessee. And if you don't know too much about the geographic US, we are predominantly in the South. And one thing that we all came out of the womb with is sweet tea. So imagine your tea, and then imagine it with a boatload of sugar in it. And it's super sweet. It's sweeter than a Coke. So we grew up drinking this stuff. And my mom would rather have a sweet tea than water any day of the week. So how do we get it to work? Well, once my mom found out that she was type 1 diabetic, it's like, well, I'm not going to stop drinking tea, but what is a way that I can sweeten it that my blood sugar is not going to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
So she went with stevia, and she found one particular brand of stevia that tasted good to her, and she tried countless variations of stevia, but she found one variation that she's like, I can get this to taste the way that I want it to taste, so that I can still have something that I can find. Yeah. So this is where, again, like, as long as we have a flexible approach to what makes Nabila thrive, what makes Luke thrive, what makes Jason thrive, or Jason's mom, or Jason's wife, then we can bring things back to like a sense of normal. And again, we're not going to judge. We're going to understand, where are you coming from? Where do you want to be? And how do we get you there? And how do we do it with the least amount of resistance possible? And then we have a plan for success. So, wow, I think I talked for a long time.
I'm just like, that is brilliant. Fantastic. I love the story of finding different approaches with different people. It's not a cookie cutter situation. People are different, diverse, and they have, different needs and drivers and things like that. So yeah, my need was cake. I needed cake in my life.
I get it. We, oddly enough, we have and it's funny because this just came up in our Facebook memories just recently. We have a video of my little guy. His name's Sebastian. Sebastian he'll be 6 in August. We have a video of him when he was about 2, crying, but he's sitting on the back of a chair. Cake. Oh. Because my wife was cutting pieces of cake and he wanted a piece so badly. And it's, you look at it now and you're like, wow, he still acts like that. But it's still classic Sebastian. Yeah.
That should be a gift. That should be one of those memes that you're like, put out there.
Exactly.
Every girl in the world understands that one. So yeah, that was my driver. I think Luke's is cooking. But
I'm a terrible cookie addict, and I got into the journey when Nabila had told me about this. She said, you can't possibly put 5 spoons of sugar in your Starbucks, and I was saying, yeah, and I'm going to dip sweet cookies in it, and I'm going to have my 3,000 calories in one 15-minute coffee. Yeah, no problemo. So yeah, no, I absolutely, it's terrible sweet tooth, but that is the background of, as I mentioned, 70s child. The bowl of sugar was there. You sprinkle it on your cereal, and then it sweetens the milk. You just grind it in at the bottom, and then you drink that. And you could probably have 1,500 calories in a bowl, or the shredded wheat, Weetabix, cornflakes, any of these things. But what really comes across, Jason, it's lovely, is that you're very passionate about the clients and the people you're working with to help them. That's lovely, because that's our, we have a mutual mission there, that we love the people that we are trying to help, and therefore, as you say, not be judgmental. We are where we are today. We've got to look at that and help people with the solutions. Let's move straight through to, I say to you, Nabila, we go straight to solution. Let's not focus on the problem today. Let's move through to a solution and see how we can help and serve. That is it. That's our mission. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great attitude to have. And I think with your background in coaching is, so similar actually with when people say, oh, what do you do? Oh, well, I was a midwife for sort of nearly 2 decades. And midwives in the UK are pretty much coaches. That's what we do. That's the kind of that support and that kind of like getting stuck in and getting your hands dirty with people, and just really like getting on the same side of the table as them to help them through whatever they're going through in life. So I can feel that passion in you. So there are no enemies, but there are solutions. And Mum found stevia. Stevia and I don't get on very well.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it doesn't, it doesn't agree with all people.
No,
It's there. I have clients that are like, oh, I hate the taste of stevia, and I won't buy products that have stevia in it. And that's, the beauty is we all have different taste buds, so we're gonna have to find the thing that works. And so when the opportunity came to be on the show with you, I wanted to learn more about your products, because I thought, well, there's got to be a sweetener that's there for someone who has.
We'll send you some. We'll send you some.
I appreciate it.
We'll send you some. I mean, not that this particular episode is about our products, but it literally does feel, look, and taste like sugar, and it's like, it's sugar. It's not sugar. And then you can have a mini argument with people because they're like, it's sugar. It's not sugar. It's sugar. It's not sugar. Anyway, so we'll send you some, and you can try it for yourself and make some, real cakes and all that stuff. But fantastic. So then you're taking somebody through that journey. And so now I want to know a little bit more, because I have been a gym bunny a few times in my life. Not at this point in time. I'm a laptop person right now, because we are so focused on business. And so my hands are very, very fit. But that's about the only part of my body. I need to hit the gym soon. Are you into more a cardio, HIIT training? Like, what is your secret? Are you into lifting weights? What is your secret for bringing fitness to your client?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I'll try to pose this from all angles, because again, it's going to speak to different people. The very first thing is you got to move. If you're going from nothing to something, just move. And if the barrier to entry is getting you off the couch, then let's just get you walking. Let's increase your step count. If you've already got that problem solved, if you're already, like, okay, I've got my handy dandy Apple Watch and I can see that my steps are going up. And if I've been tied to the keyboard all day, my hips are probably going to really appreciate it if I just go out and go for a walk or take the dog for a walk. Then we're probably going to need to do some degree of resistance training, because muscle's that really, valuable commodity that, you use it or you lose it. And I was telling this to a client the other day, there's really no aspect of life where you can't afford to be stronger mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, look at the world around us. This is not a world that affords us the luxury of being weak. So while I'm not a competitive power lifter by any stretch of the imagination, nor would I ask anyone that doesn't have the desire to be that, look and see ways that you can utilize strength training, utilize resistance to get yourself stronger. If you don't know what you're doing, hire a personal trainer. Even if you do it just for a little bit of time, find a community that makes sense to you. Find someone that you think you like their style and their approach. And you go, okay, I think I want to learn how to make this equipment work. Because what's one of the worst things that happens for someone who doesn't already adopt a strength training program is they walk into a gym and they're like, I don't know how to use any of this stuff. It's all super intimidating. Those people are on steroids. That person will look judging me, and this is why we're, you kind of said it at the beginning, we're losing. Well, one of the things that we're losing is getting people moving. So how do we bring them into a gym type atmosphere long enough for them to either embrace it or take what they need and go, you know what, I think I got what I needed to from this program. I'm going to buy some equipment for home, and then I'll be able to do things on my own. So it's lifting weights. It's getting people better at lifting weights. It's getting people comfortable and confident with the ways that their bodies move. If you do things like running or yoga or spinning, keep doing them, but learn the value of cross-training. Learn the value of being able to get your body to move in different planes and understanding, wow, I didn't know that I could do this. I didn't know that I was this strong. This is really cool. So that's the other part of it. And then when the person's ready, somewhere along that spectrum, maybe you do have that conversation about what's happening with food, and is the way that you're eating, is it complementing the way that you train? There's a running joke. In fact, I think I saw this meme sometime back that said, so you don't like cardio? Maybe you should start eating like you don't like cardio. Basically meaning if you're someone that doesn't really enjoy all the endurance work, then let your food complement the activities and the goals. I'm built like a runner, but I don't run. I've always just been a skinny bastard, so I've probably got some genetic benefits there. But I'm also in the gym 60, 70 hours a week constantly moving. So my step count averages about 15,000 steps a day. Wow. Plus I'm having to move thousands and thousands of pounds of weight because we're trying to set up barbells and all that other stuff for clients. So movement isn't something I'm lacking in. Recovery might be something I'm lacking in, but yeah, kind of a long-winded response.
Meditation. Maybe we need meditation for us. I'm the meditation queen. We'll do a skill swap.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. And I'll be trying to encourage Luke and I mean, Luke, it's got to happen now because this is the pressure is on for the two of us. We go at some point, we're going to go and have some sort of retreat or holiday in Balearic Islands. And so, you know, there's some pressure going on here. And I don't know if you know anything about the Balearic Islands in Spain, but there's a lot of very nice looking people on the beach. So there's my pressure that I'm going to get myself fit. I said, you give me 2 months heads up.
You have some good external motivation and you've got a good head start to go, you know what, I'm just going to start lifting and feeling better about myself so that should I feel so inclined that I want to flex my muscle for a picture, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah. I've done some weights in the past and I absolutely loved it. I did my 5x5 training I was doing at one point and I got to deadlift my own weight, which was I was like, this is, yeah, the girls can do it and it's so much fun. I love lifting weights, but yeah, I think I don't have any muscles at this point, so I make it very easy. Right?
You do. They're sleeping. You just got to bring them out of hibernation. But it's I'll say this: it is one of the most empowering things to see when you take someone who either has been inactive for a while or has always been inactive, just to get them back in, start them slow, and just go, look, that's muscle memory. Look what you're capable of doing, and then just build on it and take your time because we've got the rest of our lives to get this sorted out. It's about taking care of yourself, the food that you put in, the way that you train, the way that you appreciate what your physical body can do. You said at the beginning, it's a holistic approach. So you got to look at all of it. So yeah.
Luke, tomorrow morning, I'm hitting the gym. I'm there. So you better give me your update and we'll update with Jason and I'll back on I don't think I'll start with the deadlifts straight away, Jason. I'll just be very gentle because I'm at that stage of my life, menopausal woman with, less muscle mass. So I just need to take it very easy.
Go easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go in here. I don't want any injuries or slip discs.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fantastic. This has been a brilliant conversation. We hope you'll come back and then we can give you our updates.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah. We'll send you some of our sugar replacement and you can make a cake and then you can catch up with us and you can see whether we've gone to the gym or not.
Yeah, okay. That's a deal. That's a deal.
Do you have any other questions, Luke? I can see you.
No, what we're going to do, we obviously put your links into the bio.
Tell us what we can reach out to you.
And, do you have any, have you got anything like any ebooks or things about it, or leaflets or anything that's product-wise that we can create links to as well, Jason?
Sure. So let me think the best things to send you. So if you like reading, my website for my blog is jasonleonards.com. So as long as you can spell my last name, you'll be able to find it. So there's lots of blogs that are there if you just want to be able to just a bunch of free information and do what you will with it. I have 2 books that are available on Amazon, both in physical and Kindle versions. I would probably tell you to lean towards the newer one, which is called A Revolution a Day. It's probably the one that would be the most helpful. I released it in 2019. It's like a daily devotional for people who are health-minded. So it will get you through the span of a year. And then I'm on Instagram where I'm putting out a lot more nutrition type content that's on there. So you can find me on there and look at all of the completely bizarre ways that I use my sense of humor. And if you feel so inclined, we also have the Big Rocks Nutrition Instagram page where you can see what Stable of Coaches is doing for those people who are looking for online nutrition coaching. So I'll try to cover all bases there.
Well, that is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put all the links below this video so people can reach out to you. Oh my goodness, what a great conversation we've had.
Yeah. Thank you. Very, very nice.
And we hope that you come back and at some point we'll continue our conversation and you can hold us accountable to our progress, hopefully a bit less sedentary and a bit less laptopy. I tell you what, these wrists are, they can do all sorts of things very fast, typing, but not quite hitting the gym yet. So tomorrow, Luke, you need to hold me accountable. I'm in the gym.
I'll do that. I'll make sure.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Jason. And as I said, we'll post the links below this video. And it's been a pleasure. We hope you'll come back soon for us to continue our conversation about everything to do with lifestyle, nutrition, wellness, and a bit of sweetness, but hopefully without too much sugar. All right. It's been a pleasure, Jason. So
thank you very much. Appreciate it
so much.
There.